everyone. I hope you guys are having a great week so far. It is already Thursday, okay? I am definitely a day late, but not a dollar short, okay? I wanted to join really quick. I am currently listening to Find My Peace by Naomi Raine. She's one of the worship leaders with Maverick City. Beautiful, beautiful song. This was released 3 years ago. I remember at this particular time of my life, I was facing a storm, and I was driving. One of the things that has helped me in some of my healing journey is a nice drive. And I can just get an opportunity to not be distracted, and I can get an opportunity just to cry out to God, talk to Him, and be silent at times where I can hear from Him. And I remember during this particular season, I was going through a breakup. And so I really was dealing and battling with depression, anxiety, heartbreak, all of that stuff. And I really was like, how am I going to get through this? Because, ladies, let's just be real. Have you ever been in a relationship where you really thought this was just the one? This was the person that you were going to be with, possibly for the rest of your life. And you couldn't see your life without that person because you had grown attachment to them, that you thought that that was the person for you. Needless to say, during that season, I unfortunately wrestled, like I said, with those things, and I found this song, and I played it, and when I tell you guys, I literally just cried. I was able to release some things, but more importantly, it was a reminder where God was telling me, even in the midst of this storm that you're dealing with, I can be your peace. I'm here for you. I'm here to comfort you. It doesn't mean that it's going to ultimately take away all of my emotions and the things that I was dealing with, because I had, unfortunately, that soul tied to that person. And so that takes time, right? But it was very comforting. Even with that song, just listening to it today, it reminded me of a storm that actually happened this morning. Probably a little bit late last night it started, and I was literally kind of awakened just from the roar of it. Have you guys ever had a storm be nearby you that you can feel like the ground shake and it kind of rumbles slightly? But what I will say is that, oddly enough, it did not disturb me. I was able to still sleep, still rest, so it worked out, needless to say. But it made me think, just even today, as it was still going on through this morning, it just reminded me of the storms that we go through our lives. There's three different types of storms. There's the storm that, unfortunately, we conflict on ourselves out of rebelliousness, out of doing things our own way. Things that we unfortunately self-sabotage. The other storm is the storm that God will cause to test our faith and to test us to see if we are willing to really trust Him. Are we really people of His word? And we say we love God, we love you, we're willing to follow you, commit to you, surrender to you. But when a storm comes, are we still responding the same way? And then, unfortunately, lastly, there are storms that happen in our lives that's caused by other people. It reminds me of the story of Jonah. Jonah had a call to go to Nineveh. God called him to do something specifically. This story relates to me in this particular season just because God has called me to a completely different state, a different territory that I'm completely unfamiliar with. And I'm like, really, God? You know what I mean? I literally have my eyes, on a completely different path, and you're telling me to go here, and I don't know how I feel about that, but I must trust you. I must walk in obedience. Funny, I even say the obedience aspect because I remember praying about that. how many of you know that you gotta be careful what you pray for? Because I literally was like, God, I want you to help me in this season. Just be obedient. Just follow pursuit of the things that you know, are telling me to do. I want to really be trained and disciplined to be an obedient steward of you, God. You know what I mean? An image bearer at the end of the day, right? So, with that being said, here comes the test. Hi, I'm gonna need you to go here and quit your job and do this and do that. And I'm like, huh? Literally. And let me be very honest about that. The truth of the matter is that I literally did not respond, or I didn't act right away when God told me to put my 2 weeks notice in, my resignation. I didn't respond. And of course, I was still trying to process what he was telling me to do. And it wasn't until a month later that I started to begin to feel the fear of God, where it was to the point that I could hear him say, do it now or else, you know? So it was like, okay, this is an urgency. I got to act fast. This is what I got to do. I don't have all the dots connected, but I have to trust my Father. And that's what it was for me. But I will say that, you know, it's been an amazing, bittersweet journey, you know, and I'm grateful to have gone through it. But again, today I was reminded through the physical storm that was happening today here. It reminded me of the storms that we go through and how we have to be very careful. Number one, if God is calling you to do something and go somewhere, yes, it may sound crazy, weird, strange, bizarre to everyone around you, because they, you know, most people, if it's family, if it's friends, if it's close people that you have known for so long, they're going to assume what's best for you. They're going to come up with all of these recommendations, or they're going to feel like whatever they feel is best for you is what's best for you. And so with that being said, everyone may not understand the process. Everyone may not understand the journey, but it's really up to you to take the time to seek God, to stay in prayer as it relates to those things. And so my whole point is that, you know, as I was reminded about the storm, I literally thought about just in that particular moment when God called me to do something. It brought me to the story of Jonah, and his rebelliousness and how he ran. And unfortunately, as you hear about the Bible story, that he was swallowed by a whale of big fish because of him not being obedient. And so I think when I think about the stories that God has, you know, back in the Bible days, that God reminds us of, I think about that a lot of those are lessons and warnings, and how we should do life today. And so my encouragement today is that if there is something specifically where God is calling you to do, don't ignore it. And yes, it may sound bizarre and it may sound crazy, but the acts of obedience is going to take you so much further. And you're going to reap such an amazing reward, not just for yourself, but the generations behind you. Because that's what really ultimately it's about. It's not just anything we're doing is in this life is not solely about ourselves. It's grateful to sometimes be that, you know, person to be an example or a leader, and share your amazing testimony. But ultimately, it is about winning others to God. And so I would, you know, highly encourage during seasons where you're going through storms and you're wondering what is going on, ask yourself, number one, is this a storm that you conflicted on yourself? Have you self-sabotaged it? Are you walking in disobedience? Are you being rebellious to what God has already told you to do? Number two, is this specifically a storm that God is probably causing to see if you are still going to be faithful to Him? Are you going to trust Him? Are you going to allow everything that He's been teaching you throughout these years, through his word, through other leaders, through your time and meditation? Are you going to allow that to really now penetrate your spirit and apply it? And then lastly, the storms that may happen where people cause it. That's why it's so important who you surround yourself with. And I cannot say this enough, to continue praying as God is transitioning you in this season in your life, to be mindful of those people you're doing community with. It can be the closest friend, the loveliest neighbor, the nicest co-worker, the beautiful family member. But if that is not who God is aligning you with in this particular season, you need to stay prayerful and ask God to give you direction on that. So, in community with them won't delay what God has for you. Because oftentimes, if I can be really real, we will miss out the opportunity that God has for us by staying back because we don't want to leave a loved one, because we don't want to leave our job, and we feel like we have a great opportunity, a great family that we've built here. The money is looking pretty good. All that comfortability will allow us to stay, will allow us to not move forward, will allow us to honestly miss out or delay what God has for us. So again, as these storms come, not everything is the enemy. Some things are because you are acting in disobedience. Some things are because maybe people that you are around, unfortunately, could be speaking word curses in your life and you're not aware of, and you don't have the strong discernment to really articulate what's being said, what are they saying. The things that they're saying is speaking life into you, unfortunately, or death into you. So again, listen, Jesus went through the ultimate storm, as we know, having to pay this amazing, price to save humanity. And sad to say, it's still people to this day that don't believe in him, don't really truly follow him. But yeah, I just wanted to chime in really, really quick before I wrap up my day, just to encourage you guys to really consider this time in your lives. If there is a specific storm going on, again, to just question and ask, is it me? Is it he? Or is it them? You guys have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Again, the song that I was listening to was Finding My Peace by Naomi, Raine. It really, truly encourages, those that may be dealing with storms right now. And here's the truth of the matter. No matter what storm it may be, you can find peace in it. You can find peace in it. You can find joy in it, but only through the Father. You know what I mean? So thankfully, God is so gracious. He's so loving. He's so forgiving that he will, give you an opportunity again, as he does. We just have to be mindful of staying in repentance and making sure that we're repenting, turning away from our ways, and literally choosing to follow God's ways. So I'm Lahia. Just want to say, have a great, great week, and I'll talk to you guys soon.